Formed in 1984 as the United States Amateur Pickleball Association, USA Pickleball is the national governing body for the sport of pickleball in the United States. In 1984, Mike Nealy was just a young gopher at the University of Minnesota, jamming Pink Floyd on his Walkman. A lot has changed, including pickleball, and Mike. He's the CEO of USA Pickleball now. He's on the court with me. It's the Pickle with Mickle interview series 00. Start. All right, Mike, I am super excited to have you on my virtual court, as I like to say. First thing I got to ask you is, did you have a great weekend?
Had a good weekend, fulfilled with a little bit of pickleball. I got some golf in, watched some football, so that's a pretty successful weekend.
I think that's a very successful weekend. So now that you mentioned you played golf, where'd you play?
Up at Desert Ridge, up in Wildfire.
Okay.
Out there. I live up in that area.
Love that course. They got two tracks, right? Palmer, Faldo. Which one were you on? They both have about 1 million sand traps.
Yeah, no, I hit Palmer, so I stayed away. Well, I didn't stay away from sand traps, but there's less of them on there.
Yeah, that's the one with less.
It still tested me plenty. You know, I'm not going to be bragging about any score there. So
fantastic. And a little pickleball. Have you played any pickleball today?
Not today. I mean, it gets kind of tough. I tell you, people ask, I think people figure I must play pickleball all the time, 5 days a week, whatever. And, I wouldn't mind doing that, but I think the time does not allow for that. And then, being here in Phoenix, is a little bit tough if you are out during the middle of the day. So it gets a little bit warm, and then it's getting dark on us quickly. And so it breaks, work gets into the way.
That's right. I mean, you've got to somehow manage your pickle schedule around your work schedule. I get it. The good thing about this time of year in Phoenix is we are transitioning from summer to non-summer, which for all of us is really nice once you've lived out here in the valley for a little bit.
Yes. And enjoying that transition to the non-summer.
Absolutely. Well, I've got Mike Nealy joining me here. It's the Pickle with Mickle interview series. Mike, it's not your first rodeo. You've done a lot of podcasts. You've done a lot of interviews through your career. And certainly we're going to get to some of the big stuff we want to get to, the happenings in the Pickleverse. One thing that's happening, and I think the award, I should say the inductees have been announced. It's going to be happening, I believe, closer to Nationals. I got to just ask you about this. Pickleball Hall of Fame induction this November. Now, I mean, is this going to be like a cool ceremony, NFL style, where the players who are being inducted get to have somebody kind of announce for them? What are you, the master of ceremonies? How does this work?
No, I would say that, me personally, I'm not going to be intricately involved with that. We're going to be focusing more on the event itself, the Nationals event. But there's a whole Hall of Fame board that gets involved and does the voting and does all that. And they're going to be putting it on. And we have a couple representations from our board on that. So I'm going to claim a little bit of not involvement as much, but I know they're putting on a good event and going to be recognizing, I think, the 3 inductees that well deserving. So I'm sure it'll be a good event, but it is in timing with Nationals, which is nice.
Perfect. That is nice. Just, better exposure, Hall of Fame inductee. And you mentioned it, there's 3 players coming in. I believe it's Simone Yarim, Kyle Yates. I think I got that right. And I don't know how to say his last name, but integral John Guglio, integral in pickleball back in the very beginning. So folks, there's a little pickle research for you. Check out the folks going in to the Hall of Fame, because there is one. And we're here today.
Have a Hall of Fame. Yes,
that's right. Right. It's not just the sport you played in PE. If you did play that in PE, and Mike, that's what fascinates me is, I think you're kind of a little older than me. I'm just behind you. We didn't play pickleball in PE. And when I talk to people like, oh, you mean that thing we played in PE in gym class? I'm like, no, I had no idea.
My son can talk to that being played in PE. This game was invented the year I was born. So that gives you my age, first of all. But no, there was no PE of pickleball in the 70s and 80s.
That's right. No, not for sure. I mean, we had a dodgeball game where we had bowling pins in the back. And part of it was you had to get the people out, but you also had to knock the pins down. And I'm surprised that never took off and became something more. But
That's
we
fun.
want to talk. That was a
Dodgeball,
lot of.
I'll play dodgeball.
I think
Yeah.
yeah, we've got to keep the kids a little more tame nowadays with some safer games and let them fire pickleballs at each other. But at any rate, we want to talk about Olympics. We're going to get there, governance, Paddlegate, the ongoing saga, and of course, rankings in pickleball. I think a great way, Mike, though, to approach this, as I mentioned, your experience. You've spent a career in sports leadership. I think it's fair to say, from hockey to college football, even though the Fiesta Bowl is way more than the game. And so I believe there's unique perspectives gained along the way there. But how has that benefited you early when you took over the chair? You got the helm for USA Pickleball. How has some of those specific skills helped with what you wanted to accomplish initially? And now that you see that this pickleball thing is a little different, even in the landscape of college football, have you had to pivot and maybe even poach some new skills to help you now?
Well, probably a little bit of both. And I think as far as, yeah, my experience in the sports industry and for good or bad, I got tested with some pretty challenging items throughout both Fiesta Bowl and hockey, including, everything from lockouts, shutdowns to bankruptcies. And, I just happened to be, I don't know, maybe I brought it on myself, but I had the experience of dealing with a lot of chaos, maybe is the best way to say it. The beauty of this game, while it's a great game, there's a lot of chaos, and it's been described as the Wild West. So I think one of the benefits, having dealt with maybe some chaos in my past, stepping in and being able to not get overwhelmed too much with all the chaos that is going on. And there's so many great things that are going on with pickleball, and that's the positive side of everything. But along with that is some chaos. When it grows, something grows so fast, and you got new entrants, you got financial considerations and private individuals coming in, to make this is capitalism at its best as well, and it creates for some interesting challenges. But that was probably good to kind of prep me for that, for sure. And then as an organization, I think, again, this game grew so fast. This organization's been around a long time, and I stepped in on the shoulders of a lot of people that did a lot of great things for this sport and getting this organization going. I think it was just the next level. It was a natural level of having someone with seasoned leadership and experience in a sport, and really building out a team internally. And that's that I would pride myself on find the best people and building a team to be able to accomplish what we want to get to. And I think it's only been 15 months myself. Sometimes it seems a lot longer than that. So much has happened in 15 months. But one of the things that I did over the last year was building a team and building out our team to be able to accomplish a lot of the goals and the mission of USA Pickleball.
Fantastic. I appreciate the way you framed that up, and it helps me lead right into my next question. Now that we're warming up a little bit, right? We're going to back up from the kitchen line, and you never know. We might get up there. We might have a little hands battle there. We might play a little cat and mouse. So I hope you're ready. You mentioned, but that foundational message of USA Pickleball. Now that you've been able to affect, let's say, culture, bring in your own team. There's a direction you want to go. What's the elevator pitch there? USA Pickleball, we are.
Are you talking about an internal pitch here, or what? Obviously, maybe I'll just jump into the mission. With this, we want to grow this sport, be the stewards of this sport. Very important, and I see this internally and externally a lot of times, doing it with integrity.
Yes.
Right? And as far as a team, and what kind of team do I want? What kind of culture do we want? We want hardworking people that are doing it for the love of the game, doing it the right way. In a team atmosphere. So if you're talking about internally, what I think is very important is that team atmosphere and doing it the right way. And that surfaces in many different ways that we'll probably touch on a few of those. And we're coming up in the ratings or the equipment certifications, all that type of stuff, how we're doing it. We want to be doing it the right way, but doing it, full steam ahead as much as possible, and holding each other accountable, but keeping that team mentality. That's the sports mentality. Any
Right.
sport in general is pretty successful when you have a team mentality.
Absolutely. I think it's important. You have to have that message unified from within if we're going to see that happen from without. And certainly we're going to get there. There's a lot of ways that folks can go and help to support USA Pickleball. They can go out to the website at usapickleball.org. It's there, I mean, just a lot of different ways. At USA Pickleball, absolutely, Mike, has to support itself. We know that nonprofits have to make a profit. You've got a large organization, you have employees that you have to look out for. Membership is certainly a part of that. I know. And there's a lot of members. Last count, about 80,000 members. In doing a little research, I think a part of this new mission, maybe focus, and you'll help me out here, is in you're able to now. Nationals is coming up in November, right here in Mesa in our own backyard. The tournament focus, applying your team internally to hosting tournaments, some of these events that before weren't necessarily under 100% of USA Pickleball's purview. Is that correct? Help me out a little.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, and that is another asset that we are growing. I think it's important, yeah, as an organization, and thank you for pointing out we are a nonprofit, but not a traditional nonprofit. We don't have our hand out asking for donations to please help us, do what our mission is. We're out there actually earning and doing what we can to earn that income, and then and we'll get into this maybe a little bit later too. Is then what do we do with that income? I mean, the goal here is to operate like a normal business, make as much money as possible the right way. But then what do you do with that money? We don't have private ownership. We don't have individual interests. It's, so that's the great part on the back end that we'll probably talk about. But
Mm-hmm.
memberships is a big source of that. And I like to look at that. And we did just roll out, a new membership value proposition and the different levels of membership. So there's a lot more opportunity there. But that membership does support us, and it's important, and it's supporting this organization and what this organization is as the governing body,
Mm-hmm.
and ultimately what we want to become as well. This is USA Pickleball, and yes, one day we hope to see those of us that are pickleball fans. We want to see it elevated internationally, Olympics and whatnot, and we're hoping to expect to be that entity to facilitate that. But in addition to that, yeah, there are other revenue streams, and controlling what we can, and having that nationals, which is the pinnacle event of the
Yes.
sport. Yes, we had, out of necessity, that, again, maybe 5 years ago, we might have had only 5 employees. We do have almost 40 employees now, not just because we want to ramp up numbers, but bringing in people so that we could accomplish things that we needed to accomplish. And one of those things was taking events in-house, and specifically nationals. That was critical, how important that event is, and then taking that and doing that ourselves and be able to run it. Uh, yes, financially, that's a big part of it, and we expect, and that will be a good contribution, and hopefully will grow into a more significant contributions in the future. Very important though was the experience and the
Okay.
brand and what it meant to go to nationals. And I think we did a decent job of branching that brand in the past, but when you have to rely on others that have other priorities sometimes,
Mm-hmm.
some of it can get lost, where I definitely wanted to pull that back in. And I was fortunate enough to, there's a handful of people that raised their hands that wanted to come over to the pickleball world from Fiesta Bowl, by the way. Fiesta Bowl knows how to put on a great event, and they put on events for many years. And I was able to acquire a few that wanted to change teams and come over here and do events and experiences for the fan base and for the participants, and deliver second to none experience. And I think that's what people are going to see this year in Mesa at the Arizona Athletic Grounds.
Absolutely. Coming up, not too long from now, right around the corner, just about, right out there at Mesa Athletic Grounds. Is the plan to continue? Is that a long-term commitment with Arizona Athletic Grounds, I believe, or are we going to take that year by year? Can you talk about that at all?
Yeah, we're still in assessment phase. I think we have a lot of our staff local here, so to keep something local would be a positive. But there's so many new opportunities in pickleball courts and areas that are being built
Yes.
around the whole country. So I'll never say never. I mean, we did say it was just a 1 year deal that we did this year to assess
Okay.
it, but it very well could remain in Mesa and remain in Arizona in the future. But we're still assessing that.
Sounds good. Sounds good. I know there's some new fantastic pickleball places being built locally that would love to possibly collaborate with USA Pickleball and host nationals. Well, we'll let that matriculate, as we like to speak, since it's football season. We'll let that matriculate right down the calendar, and hopefully it could come to pass. But I think it's important to understand that, hey, right now we're going to have a great show. We're going to have a great time, folks, out at nationals here in Mesa at Arizona Athletic Grounds if you're going to come out, because Mike, let's just face it, last year the buzz from nationals was just that. It was a buzz, and we want to do better this time around. There were just some rumblings from the event last year. And one thing that I'm learning a little bit, and you could help to clear this up for the people for sure, players that come to play in nationals, is there a way that somebody who plays on one of the tours would not be allowed to play in nationals? Would they need some, if you know this, but I've heard if I'm contracted by a tour, I need either an exclusivity with USA Pickleball to play in nationals, or I've been invited in some other method.
You're touching on something that's a little bit probably sensitive and unfortunate. And I'll just say there are two tours out there, the APP
Correct.
and the PPA. The PPA has taken the tact of contracting their players or professional players and paying them, and good for the players. I think that was a good step for players to have guaranteed contracts and be able to make a living playing this game. PPA also took the tact of controlling a little bit more of how and when those players could play, and specifically, I guess it's unfortunate, but I think PPA has taken the tact of not letting their players play in nationals. They set up their own tournament the week before. We partnered with PPA last year in Dallas for nationals. It didn't go to the way that we wanted to have our nationals run, and that's why pretty quickly I said, okay, we're taking this in, and thanks, but no thanks in the future. They set up their own championship, they're calling it, and back at Dallas where our event was last year. We took our nationals event, put it here in Arizona at Arizona Athletic Grounds. For their reasons, they are not allowing their professional players. So, and I think most contracts that they did not allow players to play unless they had approval, and they're not given that approval. So, but there are a lot of professional players out there, including all of the APP players. So we're going to be packed with very quality, high quality.
If people are concerned about a lack of talent, don't be. There is going to be some supreme pickleball on display at nationals right out here in Mesa. Trust me for that. That I can guarantee. And so let's step back off maybe the thin ice a little bit. We didn't want to get too crickly, but I think it's important to understand, because there's USA Pickleball. There are a lot of other entities out there in pickleball. You mentioned PPA, APP, NPL, Senior Pickleball League, even USA Pickleball. And we're going to kind of get towards how do we become this main entity, this body that's going to help get pickleball as we vie for this to be an Olympic sport. But before we get there, one thing I think is really cool, and I saw this on the website, and I believe it's going to be part of or included at nationals as a true part of a true event, and that's the wheelchair pickleball, adaptive pickleball. And any collaboration with there's another entity, US Wheelchair Pickleball Association, that's done a lot for adaptive and wheelchair pickleball players as well.
Yes, we did collaborate, and this is, I believe, the first time, certainly at nationals, but the first time I think that we are embracing that as a division. That's just one of the divisions of the many divisions that you have at nationals. We're very proud to be able to have that this year, and looking forward to it. So that's a big step in, again, the pickleball, for those that I know that aren't playing, anybody that's watching this that hasn't played, maybe you haven't played yet, but there's something special about this game, and as stewards, I see ourselves as USAP as stewards of this game. Yes, we want to grow this game. Yes, we want to proliferate it. Probably internationally even as well. But it's a very inclusive game. It's a easy game to learn. It's fun to play. It's easy to get better at. But it's also I want it to be, and it is, in an inclusive game. and that includes all comers that want to be involved in this game.
You're right. And I had no idea. I knew about wheelchair basketball. I knew about wheelchair tennis. I did not know about, and it's okay that we call it wheelchair. Trust me, folks, we're not in any trouble saying that. You can say adaptive, you can say wheelchair. It's all right. And then I also know people who have gone out and played, and because you can play as a standing person with somebody that is in a wheelchair. And I mean, the like you said, it's an inclusive game. And we'll pause for a second because that's how we got here, the connecting power of pickleball. I mean, here you are on the court with me, and I appreciate it. Pickle with Mickle interview series. Mike, we wouldn't be here together if I hadn't have met Joel over at Center Court Pickleball, who knew a friend of yours who said, hey, maybe you might want to get these guys together and have them talk about pickleball. And here we are. And so let's not let that get lost out there, folks. This game, I believe, is truly connecting us. If it took a worldwide pandemic to find something for us all to truly to start to connect as people again, where we can get out there on the court, we can have a little fun playing a game. We're talking, we're jawing, and it's just great. And I see it happen all the time. And I hear passion in people when I talk to them on my show, and I hear passion in your voice too, which is absolutely awesome. So great to hear that with the adaptive, but just that connecting power in pickleball, I believe, is important.
You're right, and there's something about pickleball that I don't think I can perfectly articulate that, because I've been in sports and for a long time, and there's passion for college football, there's passion for hockey and all the other sports, but
Come on, when do the Gophers play the Badgers? Come on, you got the date circled, right?
Oh, that's been a tough matchup. I've been a tough Gopher fan my whole life, so I'm trying to keep positive.
Getting the axe this year. You're getting the axe this year.
So yeah, well, I'm as a true Minnesota fan, I'm always cautious. You should be optimistically pessimistic.
You got to be fired up for it. Of course we are. We're going to beat them Badgers.
Yeah, I'll turn that on. But I was saying, what I was saying about the sport, I've never heard so many stories from individuals, and you hear about, it's a very welcoming sport, and I started playing, and I went to the court, and people were so welcoming, and they shared, and they talked, and they let me join, but you're hearing I hear from people that life changing, and how life changing for an individual that was basically melting away in a couch and doing nothing, and in despair, and then they finally got talked into playing pickleball, and then they want to tell the story of how this changed their life. And I've heard those stories multiple times, and people want to share that. That is a real, it was eye-opening, because early on I heard a lot of those stories from people, and it was just great to hear how
it is. And it's, I mean, transformative sport in that respect, where you continue to hear those stories. I was just getting my hair cut the other day, and I was sitting around, I was talking about pickleball and this, and all of a sudden 3 of the girls in the place like, oh, we'd play. I'm like, there you go, you need one more, and you guys go out there and have a great time. And they had never played. All right.
That's another one. You can just go to, everybody wants to talk about pickleball. And I know that there's numbers out there, and FIA publishes numbers, and the girl that, I swear this has got to be underestimated, because I can't go anywhere without somebody knowing I'm associated with pickleball. Somebody's talking about pickleball, or I'll go to a conference that's a neutral conference about something. They're playing pickleball.
Yes.
Conference. I mean, it's the thing to be doing right now, which is awesome.
It is.
I think it's once people get exposed to it, they understand it. It's easy. It's fun. You can play with your children. You can play with your parents. It's and grandparents for that matter.
There you have it.
Very well. Yeah.
And that's what I say. It's a true generational sport, right? I mean, like you said, I could play with if he was alive, my grandfather, my father, my mom. I could have one of my sons out there, and you can truly do that. And I believe it's one of the only sports where you could do that, and everybody's playing, and everybody's contributing in the game. We could certainly try that in golf. We could go throw the football around a little bit, but in pickleball, you're going to be hitting it back and forth. You're going to be having a little bit of fun, and I'm having a lot of fun right now. So let's switch gears a little bit here. And I mean, the big topics, of course, is overall governance of the sport here in USA, we play pickleball. We want it to be in the Olympics. We're going to dominate. We want to win Olympic gold. Slow down, folks, because there's more to it than just saying, hey, everybody's playing pickleball all across the world. Why can't this be an Olympic sport? They put breakdancing in there. They put this sport in there. How can we not get pickleball? And so, just from what I know a little bit is, and then I'll let you help me, of course. There's got to be some unity, correct? We've got to have an organization that's going to lead the charge because, first, to get a sport in the Olympics, we've got to go to the governing body of the Olympics, I believe, for which, in my experience or for what I know, is the International Olympic Committee. They've got to approve the sport. And so, for lay people, let's just say you got to pass the bar. They've got to say, okay, we're going to have this sport. Before that can happen, we've got to get some traction around the world from a unified way. We're playing the sport. How are we going to make countries count towards the sport? Because I think I've listened to some of what people you've talked to before and some other great podcasts. We can't have a small country that's got a few people playing pickleball say, well, this is how we want to play pickleball in the Olympics, and that counts as much as North America. That won't work. And so, from your perspective, vying to get pickleball as this Olympic sport, where do you begin to form that coalition, kind of that contingent? I know USA Pickleball, there's some global representation, even on the website, Global Pickleball Federation. I believe a Pickleball for Americas, which is that all of Latin America or South America? And we've got representation there. Go ahead and I'll just kind of let you take it. How do you see this thing getting steered? And do you think we might get it by 2032?
Yeah, you hit on a lot of things there, and starting with the IOC, that's your governing body that's going to decide, is it in the Olympics or not. From that, yes, first of all, you need countries to play the game, right? I mean, we can't have Olympics and have U.S. against U.S., right? So,
It'd be fun.
but the good is this sport is growing tremendously in many countries. Still not by any means near where it is in the U.S. But yes, the IOC decides what's in the Olympics. You need an international federation that one international federation. That's important that I said the one.
Yeah.
You need a federation of pickleball or that the IOC recognizes. And so, right now, you mentioned the GPF, the Global Pickleball Federation. That is something that we helped, get started, independently, and now they're running. They have their own board, and it's independent. We helped that rolling, but they are now one of 3 federations. So there's 2 other federations that said, "No, I'm the federation. No, I'm the federation." The IOC will only recognize, and they don't want to get in the middle of it and say, "I'm going to choose somebody." But it's kind of more of, if you get to one federation, then come talk to us.
Gotcha.
Now, the question of that is, does the IOC even want to accept another federation? So that's a decision they have to make. Yes, we will accept a pickleball federation. In some of these other sports, sometimes they may ask that pickleball ends up coming under a different federation. So I mean, that's not to overly complicate this, but maybe to simplify it, the IOC decides they want one federation, and that one federation then recognizes.
Well, I mean, let's try to simplify it just for people who are listening. If the IOC said we recognize pickleball as a part of tennis, you need to get pickleball as a part of the tennis federation. That's what they could say, and then now you got a bigger job. It is to go figure out how to unite that clan and get pickleball to the Olympics. So, Mike, I think you said that so succinctly. And again, let's repeat that for people. I'm a big fan of repetition. We have to unite like Braveheart, we got to unite the clans, right? And so we've got these federations that are out there vying to say, we're the best at the school. No, we want to be the best at the school. We all want the same thing. And so it's interesting as you look over the landscape of sports. And again, we're not going to step on thin ice. A lot of times, and you mentioned earlier, we're doing things the right way. We're going to approach this with integrity. We're going to find the right way to get the sport under the right eyes and on the world stage as an Olympic sport where people want it. But people such as myself, if we've been around the earth a few orbits, we know in international sports sometimes organizations and how things get done can be perceived to be not the best. And we're just going to leave that there. So I appreciate in the mission of USA Pickleball, we're already reaching out. We're doing things. We're going to start to try to connect these pieces the best we can. And now that's going to lead us in. We got to leave the Olympic. We're going to leave the world stage, and we got a microscope right into pickleball here. And we've got all of these vying people trying to say that you do it this way and you do it that way. Mike, with USA Pickleball, we've got nationals. You mentioned PPA, MLP, they're a beast. APP, they're out there. And I was on your website. Now, the first thing I've got to ask you, though, and you can tell me nobody else is listening, do you have a sneak peek at the algorithm that ranks people, right? Do you have a Dudiper? I know USA Pickleball is using the UTR ratings, but do you have something special, right? Like a Dudiper or something even cooler that's not out yet?
I have nothing unique that's different to that. I'm going to leave that. That's a technology side that I'm leaving to those professionals, and we probably will get into that a little bit because that's another one of those, in this new. It's not a new sport, but the growth of it and the entrance in it, it's probably what you're referring to. It would be nice if there was one great rating system that everybody agreed on,
Right.
and we don't have that right now. I'm not sure if you'll ever come up with a rating system that everybody thinks is great, because everybody's probably going to think that well, I should either be higher or lower. Then nobody's ever going to agree with that. But
Right.
I think ideally, and then maybe this is something that was missed along the path years and years ago. It would be ideal as well, I believe, that if the governing body controlled that or had that rating and that proliferated, and it was one rating that was understood and and developed and what was a solid rating. We did not get out front and do that. So there were competing ratings out there. For the most part, there's really only two ratings out there right now.
Yeah.
And in the midst of what we're in, I almost feel like I do need to jump back in, not the international side, but because that after the international we talked about in the federations, one of the things that we want to protect is the integrity of the game as well.
Yes.
The game was invented with the rule book, and really internationally right now, they're following the rule book that we created.
Okay.
The setup, the equipment that we set up. Once it gets into international hands, they make the decisions, which we understand that has to get to that point. If you want to be in the Olympics, the IOC and the International Federation, they're going to decide what the rules are for the Olympics.
Right.
I'd have to say, I would say worried, but we want to be cautious that new countries don't enter into it, and a few countries with a few players get together a vote and they decide that the court should be 5 feet wider or
Right.
something materially different and change the game, because that's from an international level they can decide how they want to compete internationally. So
Well, like in basketball, right? The Olympic 3-point line is a little shorter, right? I mean, if we played real football, what if they wanted to use like a Canadian field? We don't know.
sure,
And
it's,
I
it's
really
not,
like
it's
yeah, I
not
really like
necessarily disaster.
where you're
It's
going
just
though. Go ahead.
it's early. It's early yet in this sport, in the popularity of it, to want it to change maybe too much without and now, which can never happen. We could always control what happens at the U.S. level, right? And
Yes.
as USAP in the governing body, and this is probably might be on your list to talk about. After the IOC and the federations, and then each country has a governing body for that country, right? Right now we are not officially in writing the governing body because it's not in the Olympics. The USOPC does not officially recognize this as the official one. Now,
Okay.
we've been around for 30 years and operating things, but you may or may not know that the UPPA, who created an entity, the UPA, they've in the past couple of months or so announced that they want to be a governing body as well.
Right.
And so there again, we have now competing now. What's the governing body? Why do they want it? I think they're maybe a little bit more interested in the professional game and controlling some of that. Which okay, and
Fair
that's
enough.
maybe okay. They're also infringing and want to do things within the traditional governing bodies standpoint, and that's a for-profit. They're going to do things that I understand. Nothing
Yep.
against capitalism, and they're there to make money. But I think the core of what's important for a governing body's work and the nonprofit status and how we are approaching this, I think is the right way to be doing it.
I agree. I mean, we're going to see that, right? We see that, and it's unfortunate because I talk to a lot of people, and even players who play on that tour sometimes are even confused themselves. And then does it come down to the balls? Are we going to change the ball? Let's just rip the Band-Aid off and get into Paddlegate, right? I mean, with USA Pickleball, paddles have to be USAPA approved. These guys are sequestered out in 6 different houses. They get the paddles. I mean, it's independent testing. There's a revenue stream from testing. I mean, this is like the guys setting the odds in Vegas. Nobody knows who they are or where they are except maybe you.
Well, that's a critical point of what the service and what we provide, and I think it's important. Again, back to the integrity of the game. Now, I have to say, this game grew up so fast, and in the market forces, you got paddle manufacturers. I think there's over 1,800 paddle manufacturers
It
with products
is
out there, multiple
amazing.
products.
Amazing. I matched a paddle
And
company to every bowl game last year without trouble, right? So like if you're going to this bowl game, you get these paddles. If you're going to this one, you get these. And I had paddle companies to spare.
Absolutely, but it's important, and I think the manufacturers that they're smart too. I mean, we have the parameters and how we test it, how we certified these. It was all out there. They knew how and why we tested and what we were testing for. They by nature to get a competitive advantage, they're going to press the limits and come up
Yes.
with new technologies. And I think in general, what we started hearing a lot was some concern out there in the market that, hey, these paddles are getting pretty darn powerful.
Yes.
How are they passing your testing? Now, I will say, we are if you let me talk about this a little bit, we are moving towards really enhancing our testing parameters. We're now going to go to the PB core, let's call it, this coefficient of restitution. Before, we used to have more of an indirect test where we'd take the paddles, we would have the manufacturers attest to what is this paddle made of. We didn't tear it down and confirm what they said was in there, but okay, what's it
Okay.
made of? We would test it with a kind of indirect test, putting a pressure point in the middle of it. How
Hmm.
much did it spring back? That was an estimate of how powerful that was. It worked, but when you know how it's going to get tested, it's very possible to manufacture around a test. I'm not saying that nobody was doing that in Ferris, but paddles I think got more and more powerful, and even in the last year, more and
Yes.
more. Uh, it was a concern for ours. So as we started digging in more, and we did everything more, we're tracking down paddles more, we're decomposing them, and see what their contents are and testing them. But we are going to be rolling out in the fourth quarter here this coefficient of restitution, which is it's going to be more of a direct test. So we're talking about shooting the ball at a paddle, measuring that rebound off that paddle,
Okay.
and coming up with a standard of this, and by the way, we're not doing this in a vacuum either. We're working with let's do SFIA number one, but also other paddle manufacturers.
Okay.
The paddle manufacturers, they want fairness and consistency in it as well. They want a level playing field as well. So, we'll come up with standards off of that direct test. So we'll be able to tell and monitor and have more of that direct answer to what's
Okay.
powerful and what's powerful, what's going to be allowed and not power, including the next step after that would be spin test. How
Yeah.
rough can that paddle be? We test a certain way right now.
Grit.
It's also but indirect on that, and so there's different ways you can, work around a test that way as well. But we're going to be testing an actual spin rate because I think we want consistency, fairness, and even coming down to the integrity of how we want this game to be played.
Absolutely. Would you see at all anyway? Because to your point, the game is. I love the game when you get up into the kitchen and we're dinking, we're dinking, we're dinking. We're just waiting for about that much room to speed it up a little bit. We're seeing the game. It is getting more powerful. It's getting faster. I think it's getting taken out of the air more than up at the kitchen a little bit. And so certainly with paddles, we want them to be a little more powerful. We're seeing a little longer in the grip. Do you see though that maybe from regulating paddles, testing paddles, that we might disallow some sort of surface compounds to help in the future? How they've done that sometimes in other sports, whether it be baseball, golf clubs, things like that. I don't know, just kind of throwing it out there.
You can, and right now there are some construction of paddles that we disallow, and so that's up there right now. But really, if you have a test that's going to test how powerful is it and how much is it going to spin, you're going to be worried less about what it's made of, right? As long as the power can be measured,
Okay.
and regulated, and the spin can be measured and regulated, make it out of
Whatever you want. Because you're going to have to hit our metric, right? You're going to have to be in our barometer of spin and force, or whatever we use, whatever we want to call that, bounce back, pop. We call it pop if we want. And so I think that's great. In that same arena though, what do we see, or can we even talk about sanctions for noncompliance from manufacturers if they continually start to try to press the envelope? To your point, a lot of manufacturers, pickleball continues to grow. Pro side of the game is growing as well, and we already know there's a lot of money floating around pickleball.
Sure, yeah, absolutely. I don't know, I might have missed your question in there, but
stiffer sanctions if paddles are failing.
We do, absolutely, and the one of the biggest things we can do is to decertify a paddle, and not allow it for sanctioned play. And without that sticker on there, that sticker does mean something. It doesn't mean you can't play pickleball, but you can't play in a sanctioned tournament, and ultimately nationals, of course, with that. But that is something that we haven't had a lot in years past. That hasn't been an issue, but as now the manufacturer numbers have come in, the competition has come in, the power that has been starting to been coming, making sure that people stay within the rules. But a big step of this, going back to making sure that we have a reliable test, that we're actually testing a direct test, because with an indirect test, again, you can manufacture around it sometimes, and is it accurately testing what you're actually trying to, your actual result of what you're testing for. But yeah, absolutely, I will say, that's part of having integrity and not doing it because it might be, it might ruffle some feathers in the public, or somebody might threaten you back or something. But how are we gonna have any integrity if we have standards, if we don't stick to those standards, right, and hold people accountable to those? And by the way, that's what most manufacturers want. They want a playing field where they know where they're playing, and they'll compete on their products from there. But if someone's allowed to come up with a more powerful paddle than they're supposed to, and compete against someone that's playing by the rules, that's what they don't want. So
you've got an unfair advantage.
Implementing is going to help some.
That's great. All right, so having a lot of fun here with Mike Nealy, CEO of USA Pickleball. We've talked about a lot, of course. The big thing, we got nationals right out here in Mesa coming up in November, folks. Go to usapickleball.org. Look at how you can get out here to catch some of that action. And it's probably going to be all over the streams and the screens. Are you ready to have a little fun? This is the Speed 'em Up round. And so I'll ask you, because I talked to Meredith and I said, you might have Mike check out a little bit of one of my shows if he gets a chance, because now we're going to get right up there on the kitchen line. You got to be ready. Are you ready?
Shame on me. I did not check that out. So you're going to catch me off guard here. All right.
Oh, it's nothing you can't handle, I'm sure. So first of all, we know you don't have exclusive preview to the new ranking, the Dudiper, or whatever we might call it. What is your UTR ranking, your UTIPR?
I have a provisional ranking right now of a P3. So I don't compete in tournaments and stuff. So I don't have a verified rating in UTR, which and then that's part of how they're approaching this, is that when you first get started, you can get yourself a provisional rating, and then play recreationally with that.
Right.
If you want to be competing, and that's part of one of the things that we heard a lot from people, was that I go to these tournaments and people are sandbagging. Their rating isn't legit, and I'm playing somebody that's supposed to be a 3.5, and they come in there and they kill me. And you really shouldn't have two people in a 3.5 right. rating playing each other and have huge disparaging scoring. And then some of that was happening. So that's I know that's the attempt from the UTR, is that verified rating that you can't self-report, that is based on, I think it's 6 games. You get a 6 events. You get a verified rating. and then you can't cheat that system, because who did you play? Who did they play? It's all algorithm, and there's no manual intervention.
And so what's your number? What's your provisional number?
3.
Okay. So would that be close to my 3 duper or something like that? So you and me, we can get out there, we can have some fun, right?
That would be lower than that. So I think you should be able to take me on the court.
I doubt it. All right. I already asked you how much the Gophers are going to beat the Badgers by, but I'll ask you again. You didn't give me a number.
Gophers beat the Bat this year. I think we are going to win. It's going to be 6 points.
All right. By 6. I like it. I like it. How many games will the Cardinals win this year?
6.
That's what I said in my preview. We are on the same page. High school celebrity crush.
Farrah Fawcett.
Great pull. I like it, right? I mean, talk about Charlie's Angels. Those 3 were the good ones. Guilty pleasure.
I'm going to go back to that. Lonnie Anderson went to my high school.
Get out of here.
So I'm just a few years older than me. But yes, she did.
That trumps everything. She went to your. That is so cool. Guilty pleasure.
Oh, I'm trying to get myself, as we get older, it's harder to keep the weight and to stay in shape. But guilty pleasure, give me some chocolate. I'll throw that down anytime. It's hard to, and I have my own little bowl of, I probably can't see it, I bowl of chocolate here for everybody else, I say, but I hit that more often than not. So,
that's right. That's right. All right. Well, we'll segue into that since you mentioned chocolate, Snickers or Twix.
You hit my 2 favorites right there. Twix. I'll say Twix.
All right. Hey, you can't go wrong with either. And so, are your children older? How old are your children?
Yeah, I have a 23-year-old and a 19-year-old.
Okay. So Marvel or DC?
They're all Marvel.
Right on. How about you?
I don't know enough to, although I love the, but I'm blinking the name of the show.
Which one? Avengers?
Deadpool.
Oh, Deadpool, yes.
Which is kind of a Marvel, right? I mean, that's kind of more of the Marvel thing.
Oh, yeah. You're right on it. No, Deadpool's great.
You're not asking my time. I'm stuck in the 80s. I grew up in the 80s. I'm stuck in the 80s. The
first car.
I tried to move on, but most of my stuff revolves around what happened in the 80s.
What was your first car?
My first car was a Impala, Chevy Impala.
6'4"?
I don't know.
All right. Okay, well, let's go back to the 80s. Let's go back to the 80s a little bit. Favorite music?
Boy, I got stuck in Pink Floyd pretty heavily.
All right.
Pink Floyd Underwater, so big on that. But a lot of the poppy and the hard rock stuff. My first concert was Van Halen, so the Van Halen, AC/DC. So that was kind of my flavor at the time.
Were you a Quiet Riot guy?
No, that was a little bit too later.
Okay.
Again, I got stuck in the 80s. I think they were probably more either too late to the 80s or early 90s.
Okay. Well, they were kind of mid 80s, late 80s. I mean, you were graduating around late 80s, right? 87 you got out of school, or was that grad school?
87 was college, yeah.
Okay. Right on. Good times, though. So let me ask you this. Leather jacket, jean jacket, or members only jacket?
Small.
What was your favorite?
I had my leather jacket. I had the members only, and I had the jean jacket.
Right. If you were in the 80s, you went through the whole progression.
Ordered them all, yes.
Were you turning your collar up at all? Did you go preppy?
That I didn't do. That friends did. That one, I don't know. That one never made it to my shoulders.
Parachute pants?
Yeah, I had a pair.
I know you did. I could tell. I knew you did. As soon as I asked a question, I could tell. Plus, you were into some metal. You were into a little Pink Floyd. I mean, a little parachute pants in there.
You're trying to embarrass me is what you're doing, and it's working, I think.
Snakes or spiders? Which is worse?
Snakes. Although a very good song has Jim Stafford, Spiders and Snakes.
Ooh, strong pull. All right. Go-to karaoke song. You set yourself up.
There you go. Yes.
Is that yours? What would it be?
That would be. I have sang that. I'm not a singer though, and I'd have to ask a lot of colts to get myself on a microphone singing. But I've done it a couple times, and that song has hit it. Yeah.
Javelinas are
nasty characters,
aren't they? We were playing golf at, is it Legend Trail in Scottsdale or somewhere up in kind of that area, and we were coming down around the corner, and I just kind of glanced over, just kind of like that, and this thing was the size of a boar. I mean, that's pretty much what they are, and I was just going, oh my gosh, I think they are. I think they're nasty creatures. Okay, I'm gonna get you out of here.
On a wildfire course before, so yeah.
All right, we'll get you out of here on this. Having a lot of fun with Mike Nealy, CEO, USA Pickleball. I'd like to take a variation of the guess who's coming to dinner, and we're going to say, who's coming to pickle? So you got yourself out there on the court, 3 other people playing with you. Could be anybody, entertainers, presidents, I don't care. Who you got coming to pickle?
Whoa, boy. I've been fortunate to know some big time sports people and stuff, and I would go. I would love to have some pickleball time with some world leaders, and that's probably a vague answer, but as I'm thinking about it, I like history, and I'd love to know what's in some of the minds of the current world leaders and historically some world leaders. So I'm not giving you specific names there, but I think I would be intrigued with some people that have made some major impacts on this world from the decisions.
So we'll say an international triplets of world knowledge and leadership on the court with you. I mean, hey, that could be fun. I've heard we could have Snoop Dogg out there with Martha Stewart and some other people, right? I mean, we could do anything. I mean, Snoop's running the Olympics, for crying out loud. He could run for president. But Mike, before I let you get out of here, anything you want to plug? Big things coming up for USA Pickleball. I really appreciate your time.
Yeah, I appreciate time as well, and plugging USA Pickleball, and I appreciate those of you that are out there that are supporting us. So the plug is to can you get out there if you're not playing, play the game. You're going to fall in love with it. Support USA Pickleball. We want to grow this game. There's so much good that comes out of this game that I think it's important to for health reasons and mental health reasons, physical health reasons. Get out there and do yourself a favor as well, and get your neighbors and friends out there playing. So there's an overall plug for that. If you're local or you want to come in for a great event, Nationals here in November 9th to the 17th, you can't go wrong there, and see some people from A to Z playing and some great players. So that's a great event to come to. We have a big event there that we're going to put on, and people that are participating they're going to see a huge difference from the experience that they had at last year's Nationals. I guarantee you that, and people are going to be smiling, I believe, when they're leaving this event this year. I got a great staff and a great team that's put a lot of work into what it's going to mean to be at Nationals this year. We've really sold it out. We have a couple in individual spots. It went very fast. The golden ticket winners snatched up their spots, and it was awesome to see. And we're looking forward to bringing them in as our guests and showing them a great time.
Absolutely. I'm looking forward to seeing all my friends who won golden tickets and are going to be out here. Mike Nealy, CEO of USA Pickleball, joining me. Mike, thank you so much.
You bet. My pleasure. Awesome.
Mike, that was awesome indeed. Everyone who helped put this together is awesome and amazing. Joel, Meredith, I'm talking to you, and thank you. All y'all better get out there and play some pickleball. Who's picklegating with me at Nationals? Stay safe out there. Stay hydrated. I'll see all y'all right here next time for more